It is not too often that we have two tropical storms heading towards the Gulf, let alone hit the Gulf. We have Marco today at 50-mile-an-hour sustained winds and Laura at 40. Good morning, my friends. August 22nd, 2020, 10:27 a.m. And at this hour, we have Tropical Storm Marco and Tropical Storm Laura. If you look closely over the last few hours, Tropical Storm Marco has looked like a giant mess, but is now taken over as the stronger of the two storms with sustained winds of 50 miles an hour. Also, something else with Marco that we talked about yesterday, we saw the jet stream dipping down pretty significantly, and we kind of made a prediction that the storm shift would go towards the east, and that's exactly what happened. That dip in the jet stream has pushed the storm Marco to the east a little bit, and now it's tracking towards the water gap in between Cancun, Mexico, and Cuba. We do have tropical storm warnings for Cancun, Mexico this morning, as well as the western edge of Cuba. We're looking to see if this storm's going to shoot the gap and then potentially rapidly intensify. That is what we're worried about. That is what we don't want to see with Marco, because once it hits this warm water of the Gulf, anything's possible. As you can see, around this time tomorrow, Marco's going to be basically in the middle of the Gulf, in the middle of that bathwater, and that's when we're really going to have to pay attention to see how this thing intensifies. We've seen many storms in the past rapidly intensify as second they get into the Gulf here past the land masses where there's nothing else to interact with it. That's where things are going to get really hairy with this storm. We had, up until a few hours ago, the H symbol where you see the S's. That means that they're not projecting this to become a hurricane, but at the same time, if you look at the tropical model intensity guidance chart, we still have the possibility, a lot of models going to Cat 1 or Cat 2. And that is strictly because this storm is expected to shoot the water gap now. As we look at the spaghetti plots, if you remember yesterday, the storm was way down here, expected to cross over basically just to the west of Cancun, Mexico, and now it's far to the east inside that water gap, just as we suspected yesterday. If you guys remember, once again, we talked about the jet stream dipping down and creating this force field wall that's pushing Marco, sorry about the freeze loss there, pushing Marco to the east and then up through the water gap. So that's what we're worrying about now with Marco. And as you look at the timeline, if we can get back to it here, by Sunday 1 p.m. we'll be in the middle of the Gulf. By Monday 1 p.m. we'll have a much better idea of where landfall will be and if this thing's going to be a hurricane. With that said, we're going to move on to Laura now. All right, you can see Tropical Storm Laura moving in from the right of the screen now. It has passed through the Lesser Antilles and Leeward Islands and actually dipped underneath Puerto Rico. If you guys remember, a lot of the tracks had this going north over Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic and Haiti into the Bahamas. The track has shifted, as we can look right now. Here we go. Here are the current spaghetti plots, I should say, for Tropical Storm Laura, bringing it underneath Puerto Rico, but now they want to say it's going right over top of Dominican Republic through Cuba. Some of the models bringing it south. That is also why we're seeing the timeline for this storm. As you can see right here, by Tuesday, 2 a.m., we are past the land masses that go underneath South Florida into the Gulf, and then we have the hurricane symbol. Once again, the same situation as we're dealing with Marco. Once it gets through all these speed bumps here and gets into the Gulf, it's a total coin toss as to what this storm's going to do because of the amount of distance between the last edge of Cuba, the southwestern edge of Florida, and also Cancun. Once it passes this threshold right here, it's open water, and that's when these things definitely strengthen. We've seen it happen many times, and that's the main concern as of right now. If we compare the looks of both of these storms, we can see that Marco, although looked a little messy earlier on this morning, is now definitely gaining a lot of momentum and definitely taking on that shape that we usually associate with tropical storms. That counterclockwise pull on the lower level clouds is clearly visible now. And if we compare it to Laura, which you will once again see come in from the right here, it is a lot less developed than Marco is right now. So we were expecting Marco to kind of die and fizzle off. Now we have a new trajectory for Marco with Laura taking over as far as the stronger of the two storms. And now Marco is the stronger of the two. As we can see right here, Marco moving into the Gulf and Laura is now trailing behind. Now there is still plenty of room for change. I want to stress that. I can't stress it enough. And we also have our tropical tidbits model charts that are going to show us where projected landfalls are. Now, this is pretty interesting because we have a lot of difference between all three of these models with such a small amount of space to go. That just shows that these storms are still either overachieving or just causing surprises with the National Hurricane Center. But here is the GFS. As you can see, we have Marco here and Laura here. If we skim across to a little bit into the future, we could see, according to the GFS and according to this hour, both of these storms want to make landfall in central Texas. I mean central by the central of the border that's exposed to the Gulf, with plenty of time for these storms to rapidly intensify before hitting Texas. Now, this may change. It has a lot of time to change as far as the wind currents going on in the Gulf and the jet stream and the high Bermuda Atlantic pressure pushing into southeast states. We could see these things mix up and change. That's why the models are so different. So that is the GFS putting both of these into Texas. The European model, take a look at this. So we have Marco and Laura here. Let's see where they want to go. We got one going into the center area of the coast of Louisiana, and then we have Laura going right behind it. So the European model feels like it's going to be a Louisiana landfall. We have the GFS saying it's going to be a Texas landfall. Let's see what the Canadian model has to say. After we line ourselves up here, we can see, all right, Marco and Laura. Now check this out. So we had, once again, GFS has them both going into Texas. The European model has them both going into Louisiana. Now what is the Canadian model going to say? Of course, it says one into Texas and one into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama area. So we have one with the Texas shot, another with the Louisiana shot, and then the Canadian model splitting the difference. So once again, as I said, a lot of room for change with this situation as we take a look at both storms from the radar. Again, Marco was kind of a mess this morning, really tightening up over the last couple hours, and then Laura to the west making its way towards the Gulf. So that is it for this morning update, my friends. I will be back in a little bit. I hope everyone's safe. Any questions or concerns, please leave below. And if you get a chance, I appreciate it if you like, share, and subscribe to this video. It's very important to the channel. It makes sure that people get notifications when we do make updates, and this is the busiest time for this channel specifically, so I would appreciate that. Thank you guys very much. I will talk to you all very soon. Stay safe. Bye-bye.